All right, everyone, we made it to the third and final video of part 3, Bring the Magic. Today, we're going to be talking all about promoting retention. So when we teach a classroom guidance lesson, we don't want our students to forget about it after we leave. We want to keep it in their mind. We want to help them practice the skills that we're teaching outside of classroom guidance. So today we're going to be talking about some strategies to do that. First, this one might seem the most obvious, but we want to build skills in a sequential order. So instead of teaching a lesson on emotions, we don't want to move on to, problem solving in our next session. We really need to bridge the gap between those two with more skill building. So in lesson 1, we might talk about recognizing our feelings. So paying attention to our bodies, our thoughts, that kind of thing. Then in lesson 2, we might want to talk about calming strategies. So now that I know how to recognize that I'm feeling angry, what can I do about it? How can I calm my body and my mind? Then in lesson 3, we can talk about actually sharing our feelings with someone, but we want our students to learn how to be calm before they do that. So you can see it's just a logical sequential order for teaching skills. And when we build skill upon skill, our students are more likely to retain it. We don't teach students letter recognition and then we want them to read a novel next. There's obviously steps in between there, and that's what we're focusing on. The next thing that we can do to promote retention, and we have talked about this a little bit in our meaningful takeaways video, but you can have some sort of chant or song. When we incorporate music, students remember things better. So it could be a simple chant, it could be a whole song that your students come up with. You could even have them choreograph it maybe. That definitely promotes retention. But it could be something simple like this. It starts with me, it starts with you. Kindness is what we do. It's catchy, they're going to remember that. So that's another way to keep your topics in their minds. Now, our next strategy is to make challenges. Now, what I mean by this is you teach a lesson on something, and then you have a class-wide, grade level-wide, maybe even school-wide if you can coordinate it well enough to do a school-wide. I have not done that just yet. In the way that I'm talking about here, but have challenges. So it's just a way to encourage your students to keep practicing those skills for a solid week or 2 weeks, however long you want to do it, so that they can get that extra practice and continue to think about it even after you are gone. So this is an example. Maybe you taught a lesson on mindfulness and you want students to keep trying it even after you have done your 45-minute lesson. So maybe on day 1, you can just give them a challenge like this. You could set it up on your announcements, maybe a bulletin board. Maybe your teacher would be willing to let you have it on their classroom board, however you can coordinate it. Day 1, maybe begin your day with a mindful body scan. The teacher could even incorporate that into the morning meeting. Next, mindfully eat during lunch. Maybe you could make an announcement during lunch to encourage students to do this. Day 3, maybe you have an upcoming test and you really want students to practice mindfulness before that. They could practice controlled breathing before the test. Day 4, maybe you want them to express 3 things that they're grateful for. And day 5, start your day with a daily intention. Again, that could be something that you lead on the announcements. So it's just a simple challenge to keep students practicing whatever you taught. You could do this for anything that you're teaching. You could set up some sort of challenge. Next, you could do a simple check-in. So maybe you teach your lesson on a Tuesday and you end it with a great debrief. They have action steps for how they're going to practice the skill or transfer the skill to school. Maybe you plan on Thursday to do a 5 to 10 minute check-in with the class. Maybe you could come in during their mindful morning. I keep saying mindful mornings. Maybe you could come in during their morning meeting and just check in and be a part of that. Talk about how it's going transferring those skills, what's worked for them, what questions they have after your session, after they've practiced those skills, if they have other questions about it. It's just a way to let them know that, you really want them to build these skills. You're invested in their development, and you're not just the person who comes and teaches lessons once a month. You really want them to learn the skills that you're teaching. And finally, this is one of my favorite things to do to promote retention. So we all want our teachers to continue and support the topics that we're teaching in counseling. We want those to carry over to the classroom. But we know teachers are really busy. They have so much on their plate already. And if we're asking them to do 10 other things to support our counseling lesson, but we're not really giving them the tools to do that, it's probably not going to happen, understandably so. So I like to give teachers just one pager after a lesson to let them know what we talked about if they didn't stay in the room. And even if they did, this is helpful for them to have just a quick summary. There's a summary of what we did, what the skill that I taught. I could even provide them with some activities that will support our counseling learning, and some great books that our library has that are on that topic. So maybe they're looking for some read alouds that they can do with their class, and they could pick one that is on the topic that you taught. So it just helps carry over that skill building. Here's another example. Sometimes I introduce lingo or new counseling terms, and I want the teachers to be aware of that so that we can all be using the same language with the students. So I might just include a game lingo section, and this is all, you can tell it's kind of sports themed. That's the unit that it's from, but I just kind of keep it in the same theme. And then I also include activities for this. So this specific example, students are learning about levels of emotions. So when we're calm, happy, or even feeling, we're ready to learn, but sometimes our emotions are lower or higher than that even feeling, and it can be hard to focus on learning in these different states of emotions. So that's what we're talking about. And then activities that can support it. Maybe the teacher has an emotion word wall in the classroom, or they have an emotion reference poster on the wall. And that's something that I would provide to the teachers if they needed one, if they didn't already have that. I could help them set up a calming area. Or if they're doing daily read alouds that aren't from the book list that I gave them, which is totally fine. I know they all have their own lesson plans, and I certainly would never ask them to change that. But just in whatever thing that they're reading, they can ask the students to identify the emotions in the story, or they could ask them to predict how somebody might feel in that situation. So that's just another way that they can transfer what you taught in counseling to their classroom lessons and encourage student retention from your lesson as well. So quick summary: promoting retention. Make sure that you are building skills in sequential lessons. So building small skills on top of each other in a logical way. You can use chants or songs to promote retention, create challenges, do a 5 to 10 minute check-in after a lesson to see how the skill building is going. And you can provide a one-pager or some sort of summary for your teachers so they know what you taught and how they can carry it over. Okay, so that wraps up our final informational session for Classroom Guidance Magic. I am going to include one more video to kind of synthesize everything and put it all together. And hopefully this has been helpful for you. I would love to hear from you. Be sure to send me an email, or you can just comment in our Facebook group. I want to know how it's going for you, how your planning is going. Be sure to post those challenge pages. It's helpful for everyone when we collaborate. Okay, so we will talk soon about synthesizing all of this information.